Every stone they lifted rewrote what human hands were thought capable of. In 600 BC, the Euphrates divided Babylon in two. That division wasn't merely geographical, it was military, economic, survival itself. The bridge that crossed it wasn't built for glory or monument. It was built because without it, Babylon couldn't function at all.
Babylon in its prime was not one city, it was two, split down the middle by a river that flooded without warning, running 60 meters wide when rains came. Two halves, one empire. With nothing connecting them, no passage between.
Every army that left Babylon, every tax shipment that arrived, every priest crossing to the temple, all of them stopped at the river's edge, waiting for ferries that couldn't move fast enough, waiting for tides and currents to permit passage.
They built a bridge across the Euphrates in 600 BC. And that should be impossible.
Babylon engineered one of the ancient world's most sophisticated feats, a bridge spanning the Euphrates in 600 BC. History forgot it entirely. But beneath the riverbed, archaeologists are uncovering a technique the modern world only rediscovered 2,000 years later.
When engineers first studied Babylonian bridge records in the early 20th century, one of them stopped, looked up. They did what we just invented. That single sentence would unravel everything assumed about the ancient world's capabilities.
The Euphrates didn't just flood, it erased. Every season it decided which civilizations survived and which ones vanished.
This spring, snow melt from the Taurus Mountains turned the Euphrates into a surging, sediment-choked force, scouring banks, obliterating foundations. This river followed no predictable pattern. It did not yield to plans. It was not a backdrop. It was an adversary.
The riverbed beneath Babylon, soft alluvial silt, reshaped by every flood season. Ground that swallows foundations whole. The kind of soil modern geotechnical engineers classify as a nightmare scenario. And yet, someone chose to build here anyway, chose to challenge it.
A 12-meter span, silt riverbed, seasonal flood surge. No steel, no concrete. Any engineer today starts the same way. Cofferdams. Get the water out first. There is no other option. Which is exactly what they did.
Two Greek historians, writing centuries apart, both describe the same bridge crossing the Euphrates at Babylon. And both mention something strange. Not the scale, not the grandeur, the foundations, how exactly they were built.
He says the river was moved, the riverbed exposed, the piers built on dry ground. Herodotus gets a lot wrong, but this detail, too precise, too procedural, is too specific to be invention.
Nitocris's diversion didn't just build a bridge, it rewired the river. New canals fed farmland beyond the floodplains. Settlements flourished. But concentrated populations strained fresh water, disrupted sediment cycles, and invited disease. The engineering that sustained Babylon quietly began undermining it. Steel sheets, pumped dry, workers building on exposed riverbed. This is a cofferdam, standard practice since the early 1900s. The principle is simple. Get the water out, build the foundation dry, let it back in. 600 BC. Everywhere else in Mesopotamia, builders relied on sun-dried mud brick, but the bridge piers demanded something harder, kiln-fired, denser, bonded with bitumen mortar, waterproof under sustained immersion. This wasn't improvisation. Someone understood exactly what the river would do to ordinary materials.
The mortar binding those bricks wasn't stone or lime. It was bitumen, natural asphalt seeping from the earth itself.
completely waterproof, chemically inert underwater. Modern material scientists recognize it as almost ideally suited to submerged masonry. They picked the right material, not by accident. That question leads somewhere unexpected, to a name and a decision made beneath the floodwaters of the Euphrates.
Every ancient account of the Babylon Bridge credits the engineering decisions to one person, not a king, a woman, Queen Nitocris, regent, strategist, and by Herodotus's own account, the single most strategically intelligent ruler Babylon ever produced. The Euphrates carries roughly 250 cubic meters per second, filling 100 Olympic pools every second. Diverting it was 50 times more demanding than any modern river bridge project. No pumps, no machinery, yet Nitocris managed it, because this was never just a bridge. It was systems-level infrastructure. Herodotus was not a neutral observer. He admired clever rulers, and sometimes invented them. So historians have argued for 2 centuries, is Nitocris whale, or is she simply the name given to an engineering achievement too sophisticated to explain any other way?
Which is where the ground itself becomes a witness. When Robert Coldway excavated Babylon between 1899 and 1917, he found pier stubs, stone and brick foundations embedded deep in the Euphrates riverbed, arranged in a precise line.
7 pier positions, spaced 18 meters apart, consistent, deliberate, geometric. That kind of spacing doesn't happen by accident. Coldaway's survey had uncovered something unmistakable beneath the silt. The bridge wasn't legend. It was systematically engineered.
The pier stubs weren't resting on top of the silt. They were driven deep into it. The Babylonians somehow anchored massive brick and stone piers into unstable riverbed sediment, and they held, for centuries, intact.
Saturated alluvial silt beneath a multi-ton pier load should liquefy under pressure. It should settle and shift. The pier should tilt, crack, fail completely, unless the foundation itself was prepared before the water returned. The river diverted, workers compacted the exposed silt, drove wooden piles deep into bedrock, and laid broad stone footing plates, all on dry ground. The diversion wasn't mere convenience, it was structurally essential. Without dry foundations, these piers could never have endured. And they did last. Not a decade, not a century. When Alexander entered Babylon in 331 BC, the bridge still stood, still functioned. So we have the what, we have most of the how, but there is one question no ancient source answers clearly, and modern archaeology cannot yet resolve. How did they know it would actually work?
Western engineering formally codified river dewatering only in the 20th century, after centuries of catastrophic failure. Medieval bridge builders drowned attempting what Babylon had mastered. Every civilization after them spent generations relearning what Babylon apparently already understood, which forces an uncomfortable question.
In 1903, a Babylonian cuneiform tablet was translated in Constantinople. Engineering instructions, detailed procedures for working in moving water, for dewatering riverbed zones, for laying foundations on exposed ground. It predated the modern cofferdam patent by 4 years. History frames Babylon's fall as military conquest, but archaeology tells a different story. No verified discovery confirms a single bridge whose engineering defies modern explanation. Ancient texts describe it, yet the specific archaeological record remains silent. The mystery may be less about what was built and more about the narrative we constructed in that silence.
Rome built extraordinary bridges across every corner of its empire, But not one Roman engineer ever moved an entire river to lay foundations dry. They worked around the water, always around it. Babylon moved it. Because Rome never possessed that knowledge, and history never recorded who taught it.
The pier stubs remain down there, beneath the Euphrates, unexcavated and waiting. To reach them today, modern engineers would need to divert the river itself. The same river the Babylonians once moved with fired brick and bitumen. The work isn't finished. The evidence is still underwater.
One surviving tablet is fragmentary, enough to confirm the technique existed, not enough to reconstruct it fully. What remains is a glimpse, like reading a single chapter from a book where fire consumed every other page. Fragments of genius, hints of knowledge lost.
Modern engineering history tells a story of steady, unbroken progress, each generation building on discoveries of the last. But Babylon shatters that narrative. There were peaks of technical mastery that were never inherited, never built upon. They were erased. The climb back up took millennia.
This brick is 2,600 years old, underwater for most of that time. It has not dissolved. It has not cracked. Whoever selected this material knew exactly what they were doing, knew it would endure. We simply don't know their name.
The Hanging Gardens may be myth. The Ishtar Gate lives in a Berlin museum. But the bridge, built by a queen history nearly forgot, still exists. Beneath the Euphrates, silent, waiting for someone brave enough to move the river again. If Babylon solved this with fired brick and bitumen in 600 BC, what else did they solve that we haven't found yet?